Hi guys, I'm really excited because just a moment ago when I opened my emails, I've got the brand new Luminar AI complete version, not the beta anymore, the full version that will be coming live to you guys on the 15th of December. And I've got it here to give it a test run. Just last night I did a photo shoot with a couple of lovely ladies, so I've got some brand new images to edit. For this video, I'm just going to freestyle the photo editing process so that you guys can come with me on this journey and just see what Luminar AI can do for the first time. And let's just explore the tools and the features together. So let's load it up and get into it. So what I'd like to do is work on a couple of images and choose something that's got the potential for some landscape work, like maybe this one here, or even this down here, and maybe as well something close up so we can look at the portrait side of things as well. So if I double click this image here, nice, so we can see our model, beautiful and smiling there. And this one loads up and this is more of a kind of serious kind of look. Let's work on this one. Now, a lot of people ask me, should you work in RAW or JPEG? And what I'd just like to say is, if I were working in JPEG, the details here in the highlights would be gone. They would be unrecoverable, and potentially a lot of the detail in the dark shadows here would also be unrecoverable. So if you work in RAW, you've got the ability to use the software to bring back as much of that information as you want to. So before we start editing, let's have a think about what we need to do. The exposure on this sort of bottom half of the image, and our model Sammy herself, it's very dark, so we certainly need to brighten that up, and the sky is potentially overexposed around here, so that needs some work as well. And in terms of what kind of look we'd like to give this, I just want to give it a nice, warm, dreamy kind of feel. So let's see what Luminar can do for us. Let's jump into the templates. And this new version remembers what I was last in, which was my collection. But let's come back to the actual templates built in with Luminar AI. And this is interesting because the categories it's showing me here, we've got artistic, filmatic, and we've also got landscape at the beginning there. So let's jump into filmatic and just see what we can do. This is the cool thing with Luminar AI that I think is really exciting, is with just one click, you can get a whole new look on your image. And that's a lot of the fun, is you can just jump around from look to look, see what you like. You might say, no, I don't really like any of those. Within the film view, let's have a look at artistic, and we could go for something subtle. That's quite nice. We can see that the detail's been brought back into the clouds there. That might be a really nice starting point for us. Solemn's quite cool. We could go retro if we want. What does that look like? That's nice as well. It really depends on you and your own style, what you want to go for. But as I've explained in previous videos when we've looked at the beta, we don't need to be stuck with just what Luminar offers. Sure, we can, and that's an amazing starting point and can also be your finishing point. But if we wanted to, say, use subtle as a bit of a Kickstarter, what we can then do is delve into the editing section, and this is what I want to do. This is what I love. We can come into our essentials, and this is where, for me, the magic happens, because now we are in control of this look. All of these tools within the essentials tab, we're able to ascertain what that template has applied just by the little dot that's denoted next to the tool itself. So we can see we've got light, enhance, color, and details that have been added through that template. I know I want to actually increase the exposure of this, brighten it up. So I'm going to open up the light tool, and we're just going to bump the exposure up a wee bit, somewhere like that. Let's have a play around with the smart contrast, maybe a little bit more of that. And I definitely want to warm things up. See, if I push that temperature all the way to the right, how things get more orangey and summer kind of vibe going on. So let's push those up a little bit, and maybe even increase the tint into that sort of magenta tone. Yeah, I like that. Now we can see we're blowing out our highlights just a wee bit in the sky, so let's see if we can't protect those with the highlight slider. Yeah, that's really nice. It's just taken care and controlled that nicely. One of the things I really love about Luminar is it's so easy to create really nice results really quickly, really simply. But if you want to take things further, like often I do, because I've been photo editing for 25 odd years now, and I know tools, I know curves, so I know that I could actually introduce some yellows to the highlights and some blues into the shadows, and I can do that with a tone curve. But there's easier ways to do that if you're not familiar with things like tone curves. So those tools are there if you want them, but if you don't, just just avoid even going there. You don't need to. One of the most powerful tools in Luminar AI is definitely the accent tool. If I take that away, you can see that the image kind of returns to a version without much pop. As soon as I start increasing that accent AI, you can see that there's a lot of things enhanced: contrast, localized detail. We've got more punch to the image, more saturation. So it's intelligently assessing our scene and making all those changes dynamically for us. So we could go all the way to 100, which normally I try and steer clear of pushing things too far because things become a little unbelievable. However, what it's done for Sammy herself and the trees around here, I really like this. And you can see that it's tried to balance the exposure in the sky, that brightness, it's reduced it. And in the background, the shadows, it's increased it. So we have a more uniform and tied together kind of image. But we can say, I like what it's doing. And I can see what it's doing at 100, but we don't push it quite that far. It was on 41, I believe, but let's go a bit stronger. Let's go 50. I said I wanted to give it a dreamy look, so let's see what we can do in the creative section here. One of the nice ways I like to do that is with maybe the mystical tool. That just creates a nice kind of softening effect, kind of ethereal. As we push that up though, it is kind of dulling down our model. I like what it's doing for the background and the foreground, just the environment itself, but it is dulling her down to maybe, yeah, we grab the shadows and that takes that effect off of her. We've also got a masking tool, which is brilliant. If we wanted to actually remove that, and you can use this for any tool, just use the masking tool and just say, I want to erase that effect. If you want to reduce the size of your brush, you can either do it over here with the slider or use your bracket keys, and we can just paint that off of Sammy. And we can see that she is now protected from that effect. So if I turn that effect off and on, you can see that it's doing that effect that I liked everywhere, but apart from on Sammy. Perfect. One of my favorite tools to use is Mood. And this is accessing what is known as a lookup table or a LUT. These come from the film industry. They are a great way with just one rollover, one application of changing the whole look of your image. So we could come into cinematic toning and we could go for this Anaheim. We could go for Bakersfield, Long Beach, Los Angeles. You choose. Like, so if we go for this Los Angeles and we look at our before and after, it's really subtle, but it's an interesting look that it's applied. Now, if you feel that the sky is still a little too bright and you want to actually make changes rather than being global to the whole image and you want to be more specific to an area, this is where Luminar's new tool over here, local masking, really comes in, because what we can do is add an adjustment. So we can come in and add a basic adjustment, and whatever I create here, I'm going to apply it only to the sky. So I might want to reduce that exposure. The fact that she's getting darker here, I'm not worried in the slightest. Let's reduce the highlights. Perhaps we want to introduce some more structure to the sky, just to give those clouds a little bit more pop and emphasis. If we increase the saturation, what's that doing for us? Okay, it's kind of making them go a little nuclear, so I don't want to do that. Perhaps we want to reduce a little bit of that saturation. And now I say, I like that. I like what it's doing in the sky, maybe not at that intensity, but what I'd like to do is just paint that back in. And so using our mask, we can either erase that effect from everywhere else, or in this case, I'm going to go to the paintbrush tool and just start painting that in back into the sky. And I'm not going to use 100% opacity. I'm going to go with something like 50, and then we can build that up. So if I click and start painting, I'll do one pretty rough painting session over the top there, nice and easy. And if I let go, we should now see that introduction. So if I take that away and put it back on, look at that nice enhancement to the sky. If we want to increase that effect slightly as well, we can go for another bit of painting here, another sort of 50% effect, and I might just do that there. Sort of darken the sky up the top here as well. Nice. So this is our before that, and here's our after. And if we want to brighten up Sammy, we could do that using the same technique. We could just add another mask, come into the basic section, and that just lets us, as it says, do some basic adjustments. So we could brighten everything up, knowing full well that we're only going to be applying this to Sammy. I think we want to make sure that the shadows don't get lifted too much, so we'll bring that down. We could even bring in some AI structure just to really bring her out and accentuate her. And now we're just going to get the paintbrush tool and just paint that effect in. I'm reducing the brush size again using the arrow keys. I click, and now I just start painting this over Sammy. So we'll be at 50% at the moment of that effect when I let go. And now we can see that we've just brought a little bit of a pop to her. You see that before and after with her. Really nice. If you feel that the transition is a little bit too harsh and it's giving her a halo, what you can do is maybe do another run with opacity. We'll just increase the softness up to 100, and we can now just make that effect go a little bit further, just so we have a bit of a transition area, something like that. So let's see what that looks like before and after. And now I will just erase that a little bit because I think we were a bit too heavy-handed there. Calm it down, Anthony, get that nice transition. The idea was it was a smooth transition. Okay, that's nicely done. I'm happy with that. Let's look at our before. We can see we were underexposed, the color's not quite right. It's a photo that's got potential, but without using these tools, without using Luminar, we're not bringing anything out. As soon as I show you what we've done there, like what a transformation. Before, after, before, after. Ah, man, you guys know I love doing that. Okay, I'm really pleased with the result of that. I'm also really pleased with the responsivity. Is that a word? The responsiveness of the actual software, because I'm clicking, I'm painting, I'm doing stuff, I'm moving sliders, and immediately I'm getting feedback. So as you probably know from all the crazy hype that has surrounded this piece of software, the release date that's now been set is the 15th of December. The price is going up after that. So if you want to get in and get yourself a copy, do me a favor. There's a link below. I'd love it if you'd use that because they just give me a small commission from that. And that just helps me keep creating videos for you guys. So that would be awesome. If you guys are watching this after the 15th of December 2020, you can get access to this straight away, and you can use my discount code, which is @Sky10, and that'll actually save you $10 at the checkout. So help yourself to that as well. Let's do another edit, guys. So let's select another photograph. I'm going to choose one of these of Bella, because what I'd like to do is actually work with Luminar's AI face tools, AI body tools, and just see what they can do. Now, the ethics of reshaping, changing people's bodies, things like this, please, I'm not going to get into that. Don't give me a hard time. I'm just showing you what is possible if you choose to go that route. So within templates, let's come back to Luminar's templates, and straight away it knows it's a portrait, so it's got some nice options for us. So we might want to do something experimental. Let's have a look what it can do. So we've got like these light leak effects on cameras, which you can actually still use this effect if you like the overall effect and just remove the light leaks if you want to. That's really easy to do. But if you want to just create something that's just a bit of fun, looks a bit different, these are kind of cool, these experimental ones. You wouldn't want to be using them for many of your photos, I wouldn't think. And to be honest, I think they'd get pretty old pretty quick, so be mindful of that. But if we come into the close-ups collection, let's have a look. Iconic. I love a good black and white, so that's a cool starting point. Brush up looks good. Hard to tell what it's done without seeing our before and after. Okay, let's try featured face. That's pretty cool. I like that as a starting point. It's a subtle edit, but it's really nice. So let's use this as our starting point. You could say that is your finishing point, but as this is a video on delving into the editing tools, let's do that. I'm just going to come straight into the portrait section here, and let's have a look at the face AI. So, okay, already it's got a 31 added for the face light. So if we take that away, you can see it darken down her face straight away. So if I move this up, you can see her face is being brightened. So as with so many of these tools within Luminar, you don't necessarily want to be pushing them too high. 100's too much in my opinion for most of the tools, but it's a valuable thing to do, to push it all the way so you can straight away see the effect it's having, and then you can dull that back. It's also slimmed her face, I see. So if we return her face to exactly how it is before, and then we start moving that slider, we can see that it will slim her face. So I really advise using any tool that's going to modify the actual structure of somebody's face or body too much. Just be really careful about doing that, and sometimes you have clients who want that, and that's fine if that's what they want, but maybe don't go doing that just on someone just because you can. But this is an example of demonstrating tools, so let's do that. Let's turn it off and turn it on, and you can see that's made quite a nice change. It's really subtle, and I think that's part of the key to doing these kind of adjustments, is keeping things subtle. I'm actually going to drop all of these sliders back to 0 so we can just start afresh on this and see what's going on. So if I move this iris visibility up, that's not actually doing anything. So I'm thinking because her eyes are already quite open, it's not needing to make a change. The iris flare, let's give that a try. That's something new to me. Okay, so that's just adding in almost like a catch light, but on the underside of the iris. So if you're wanting to just brighten up the eyes, that could be quite a nice little way to do that. Again, I'm thinking just subtlety would be the way forward. If you want to enlarge the eyes, whoop. Any change you make, if you look at a before and after, it can seem really extreme. But if we take that all the way back to how she is before, you can see what that tool can do. Let's have a look at the eye whitening. And again, if you push that to 100, you can see it's too much, but look, you can see it nicely whitens the eye, but it's keeping the corners darker. So that's quite clever, quite useful. If we drop that all the way back, the eyes start to kind of get quite dull again. So it's probably quite nice just to introduce a little bit of that. And the eye enhancer, let's have a look what that's doing. Whoa, I really love that, because to make those kind of changes in something like Photoshop, that requires a bit of masking, that requires knowledge of curves, maybe dodging and burning, that sort of thing. And you don't need to know any of that stuff. You just need to know, I want to enhance the eyes, and grab the slider and give it a go and say, oh, that's too much. That's obviously not enough because it's not doing anything. You go, maybe we'll go for 25. So it's a case of you just dialing in the amount of an effect that you want. You don't need to know all the behind the scenes of how this is being done. And that's the brilliance, I think, of AI with photo editing, is you don't need to know how all the tools work. You just might need to know the direction you want to take your photograph in, and then you can just play around. Red eye removal will only come into effect if somebody's shot a photograph with a flash and people's eyes have gone red through the pupil there. So not an issue for us here. Let's see what dark circle removal does. So if we take that away and bump it up again. So again, subtlety, and it's an improvement with subtlety that's not really changing her that much. Improve eyebrows. So I would probably call that tool darken eyebrows rather than improve eyebrows, because whether it's an improvement or not, that's a matter of opinion. But yeah, if you want to darken the eyebrows up a little bit, just to bring a little bit more emphasis to the eye, you could do that. We've got tools to saturate the lips. You might want to do that. You might want to add a bit of redness to the lips. You may want to darken the lips. Might want to whiten the teeth. Obviously, we don't want to push it too far. We're not in Hollywood. We have not got that Hollywood white going on, and we don't need it. It looks a little unnatural. But if we now look at our before and after with those changes, before and after, that's a nice edit. Personally, I wouldn't be doing anything like slimming the face, but I just wanted to show you those tools. I've just turned the slimming of the face off because that's not something I would normally do, to be honest. But that's our before, and that's our after. I also probably wouldn't enlarge her eyes in this instance. So the actual geometry of her face is exactly as it should be, but we've just brightened up certain areas. And I think that's a nice, acceptable enhancement to the portrait. So now let's have a look at the skin AI. So let's just pull this down a little bit so we can see more of her skin. And Bella's got the most beautiful, perfect skin. So she really won't need much going on. I mean, you can see that we're already on 40 actually. So let's just take that away and see what things like. So as I say, perfect skin. Let's push the amount to 100 and just turn it off and on, off and on and on. And we can just see that it's just removing minor blemishes that everyone has their own unique look to their skin. No one's going to be a porcelain doll. But I actually think even if we push this to 100%, It's not blurring the skin out so you can't see pores and details. The lines that make up the character of her face, her smile, I think they're a beautiful thing, and it's lovely to see smile lines, and the fact that they're not actually just flat out removed I think is actually quite nice. If I zoom back out, let's just have a quick look at the body AI. Not too many options. We've got shape, which basically is going to allow us to bring her body shape in and slim her down, or if you want to go the other way and make someone slightly wider, you can do that as well. So as I say, the option to do that is there. Whether or not you should, up to you. You've also got an abdomen control as well. Can you see where her shirt's tucked in there? It just pulls that in as I push that up to 100. And now we can look at our before and our after, and I just think that's a really nice little improvement. It's certainly enhanced it, and it's kept it subtle. So before and after, I think that's really nice. Last one I'm going to play around with is this one here. Let's have a look at the template section and just jump back to what is recommended by Luminar. So because it's got a landscape in it and also a person, it's using the AI to just make some suggestions. We've got easy landscapes. So let's see, for a sunset, nice. Clean light is nice. Black and white for noirscape. Like, that's just a really nice, beautiful black and white process right there with one click. I love that. The name forest stream has got nothing to do with this photo whatsoever, but that process on this photo looks great. So thanks Luminar AI for a nice starting point. That's awesome. If I'm happy with this look, but I want to change the mood of it slightly, what I'd recommend is just coming back into that creative section here and just jump into mood. And again, just go through these different LUTs that are available to you, because they're a really, really quick way to change the feel of a photo. So here, just adding a bit of a sepia wash to this, we could increase the amount. I think that's got a really, really nice feel to it now. Now, I said I was going to freestyle in this video, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. Let's just have a little play around, bit of matte, mystical. Let's see what that's doing. That's giving it a really nice ethereal kind of glow. I really like that. What about adding some more glow with soft focus? Well, that's warming it up with that glow. I really like that. We could add a little bit of sun rays as if the sun's setting. Let's just pop this sun center. I don't know, up here somewhere. Oh, look at that. Rays of light coming in. That's really cool. I really like that. That's one of the things I love with Luminar AI, is things are just so quick to create some dynamic, just beautiful effects. And then if you want to be more specific, like I'm thinking her jeans are just going a little bit dark here, just becoming a bit of a blob. So that's when we can use that localized masking. We can add that basic, just maybe brighten things up, maybe boost the shadows up a little bit. Definitely boost the shadows up, and we can just paint that in just over her jeans. So let's just do that here. Reduce the size of the brush a little bit. And now if we turn that off and on, we've just brightened up and brought attention more to her form. And the last thing I'll show you with this as well is if you look at your original before and after with a before and after, and you think, well, yeah, I really like that, but maybe we've gone just a little bit too far. I think it's the glow itself that's too far. You could reduce it by coming into the actual glow section and just backing that off slightly. So mystical, we'll just back that right back as well. Or the other option you have, if you think the overall look just is a little bit too much, come down to the bottom right and you have a slider that controls the whole look itself. So if we take it to the left, it's all gone. Take it to the right, it's all on. And then you can just find that sweet spot in between where you can just back things off and go, I really like what I did, but I just think I pushed it too far. And so rather than having to come into individual sliders and reduce them, all of them, you just come in there and you just bring it back and you go, ooh, easy. And then you can go, this was my before, this was my after, and I'm very happy with that. Guys, if you want to get yourselves a copy of this, there's that link below. I'm going to be creating more videos where I'm doing like free training to show you guys all these tools. So if you've got any questions, things you want to learn about, let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. I'll catch you in the next video. Much love to you all.